Good morning. Let me figure out my screen like usual. Let's see.
So many screens.
Hi, Finn.
Hello.
All right, I'm gonna get everybody muted, and then let me put my video on so we don't show anybody's names. Hello, hello. All right, Q&A today. Let's pull up Discord, the almighty Discord, and see what we've got today. When I looked really quickly earlier, we had some pretty phenomenal questions. Okay, let's see. I just had, okay, Q&A. We'll start from the earliest question, which says, da, 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 how to regain abilities you had and then lost. How do you regain abilities that you once had as a child or in the recent past, for example, that you ignored due to society, family, shame, social norms, customs, lack of time to practice, trauma, etc.? Can you get them back if you had it once, or should efforts and focus be centered on developing something new? Okay, phenomenal question. So I would say first is assessment, right? Like determine how you know the ability is lost, right? And loss is a very interesting word, right? So it might be lost, like you might not have access to it. It might be dormant, right? Sometimes gifts fade in and out or they change. You mentioned childhood and having abilities as a child. When you're creative and intuitive and imaginative as a kid, that stuff comes really easily, right? But then as we get older, we develop our logical side of our brain and we live honestly in a framework that's designed to help keep us in logical space, not in intuitive space. It's not valued in the world 3D as much as it should be, right? Intuition, um but because of that, a side effect of just living in the world and everybody valuing fact, right? We start to ignore that intuition, whether that's conscious, like I can't listen to myself, I can't trust myself, I can't hear my guides, all the way to like that stuff is kooky, they're hearing voices, go see a shrink, like the whole spectrum, right? We've heard all of it. Um, it's not a common thing. It's getting better in society, but it's not a common thing to be hyper intuitive. It can be scary. You have no idea the amount of men I meet dating, and they're like, "Oh no, you're a witch. Oh no, you're gonna know all my shit." Yes, already do. Thanks. Like that's just a thing. It's not popular to be very intuitive, and that's kind of one of the things that witches are used to, unfortunately. Um, so it can be a little bit of a journey coming from childhood with abilities into adulthood and that journey and how it can change things. So I would say first find out how or examine, not find out, examine how you know it's lost. What evidence do you have 3D? Give your 3D brain what evidence do you have that it's gone or dormant? And then I would start with consistent practice if it's something that you want to get back. It sounds like it because you said how do you regain them, right? So practice. Let's say I'm shooting in the dark, but let's say your gift was mediumship, right? And you channeling people left and right all the time on demand, working all the things, and then one day you feel like your gift's dried up. And now you might get nudges from spirit, you might get colors or sounds, but you're not connected how you used to be. I would say consistency builds practice, right? So I would sit down and set, 5 or 10 minutes, something small, so it's not overwhelming, break it into small pieces and do something consistent in practice. So if it was mediumship, I would sit down for 10 minutes with my preferred method of connection. For me, that's like meditative. For some people, that's a Ouija board. I know that's not in your practice, but tarot, whatever your particular thing is, if that's just you or you plus a tool, great. Scrying, whatever. Um, Practice that for 5 or 10 minutes a day. And what that does is it gives us what's called super effort. Right now, you're in a space, whether this is the universe leading you through a process or you choosing to do something else and focus on something else, that's fine. But what you're noticing is that you want something back. And the way to get something back is to be consistent at practice. You're showing the universe super effort. You're showing them, I am actually here. I actually do want this. This is how committed I am. Even if you have to sit the first 7 days and it feels like pulling teeth and you're not getting anything, you're not getting any spirit info, you're not hearing anything, practice. The universe will reward your efforts, right? Our results come from our efforts. So if you sit and try, and we can map this out too, but if you sit and try to reconnect in the ways that you were connecting consistently, it will start to rebuild. The only caveat I would say is if there's like severe trauma that's keeping your brain from allowing itself to relax enough. Like let's say without getting into places where I needed trigger warning. Let's say you have a really bad nightmare and you see something really scary that's personal to you that scares you, whatever that may be, and you shut down, right? Your brain may not be able to relax from seeing what you saw enough to allow you to get to those dreams again without practicing regulating. That could be regulating in therapy with a therapist if you have trauma that's blocking you from being able to be open. You would know that by seeing other facets of trauma showing up too. Where are you not able to be open? Where is your creativity stifled? When's the last time you danced? When's the last time you sang? Things like that, right? Um, if there is not trauma that's preventing your consciousness from opening, your brain from being receptive, if there's not a medical reason why you wouldn't be able to get back those abilities. For example, let's say you're medicated um, for a mental health thing, and that keeps your neurochemicals at a specific space. It may be harder for you to regulate. You may have to do more work to get yourself grounded if you take stimulants. Okay. You may have to do, we're always playing in a level of balance. So getting yourself back to that balance is going to be really important. And then moving from that balance in consistent ways is going to help rebuild that. As long as there's not, brain stuff going on, things like that. Everything is figure outable. Doesn't mean it can't be rebuilt. It just means you might need other tools to help rebuild it versus someone else's brain or someone else's abilities, things like that. Mostly because I know who asked this, give yourself permission. Release yourself from the judgment, release yourself from expectation. It doesn't have to look a specific way, right? This is one of those things when we can, just like we get attached to Hollywood saying that spirit's voice is supposed to be God's voice is a dude and big and booming. Okay, well, not when I talk to her. So I don't know about y'all. That's cool for you, but not when I talk to her. She's quiet, right? Spirit's quiet. So it might look different than you're used to receiving it. It might come in a different vibe, right? It might show up in a different way. There's lots of ways to access the same info. So your needle may be changing where you're developing other abilities and the same information might come a different way. Or it's just that you need to get back in consistency and back in practice and not hold yourself to how it used to look or expectations of how it used to be. You're not the same person, right? You get to start this journey with this gift again as the person that you are now. And that's great because you've learned things and you process things. So that's what I would say for that one. Let's go to second question. Use of magnets and spell work. Ooh. Okay. I've been wanting to use magnets in a money/abundance spell, but I'm not sure how. How? Let me have a coffee. 1 second. All right. So if you're new here, when spirit does that, that means this really needs to come out. My eyes are watering. That means spirit really needs to say this. Okay. Listen up, friends. Apparently, this is important. The question says, I've been wanting to use magnets in a money/abundance abundance spell, but I'm not sure how. And if there are any specific precautions of using magnets in spell work. Good God. All right. So first of all, I would say magnets, we know they have attraction principles, right? They work on pulling things towards us. You can also use this banefully in repelling magic, but considering my audience, if you want to learn baneful magic, go to council. Come to council in the summer. We're going to have a great time. We're going to talk about positives right now, okay? So if you are working with magnets, you're going to think about drawing things to you. This is similar to drawing powder, similar to sweetening spells, saccharin magic, drawing magic. You're pulling it towards you. They literally demonstrate the law of attraction, right? Polarities, and they repel or they attract based on where they're oriented. Their perspective. How interesting. Um, I would say that I use these a lot for like anchoring magic. So I will I'll fold up a petition and I'll put two magnets. I have like I'll show you the really, really small ones. They're like tiny, 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 tiny. And I will put two of these on either side of a folded petition. So I have a random piece of paper. Let's say this is a petition. And I will pinch the petition between two magnets to help magnetize what I want. See that. So that's one way that I use them. Um, they can also be used for cleansing, for cleaning and cleansing. Like they mop stuff up. They can attract things. A lot of people don't think about that. But if you want to clear and you're attracting like chaotic energy or emotional energy or whatever, you can use magnets to pull as like almost like a ward to pull those things or sponge to pull those things together and then just clear it in water. Super easy. Um, be mindful that magnets can fuck with your electronics if you're using them in spells, right? If you have anything electronic part of your spell, do not cause yourself an electronic misfire because you use magnets. That's a big no. And then I would program them like you do any other correspondence in a spell. You can't just assume that because a magnet is a magnet. I mean, yes, it has inherent properties of attraction, right? But I would hold these magnets as I'm putting them on that piece of paper, and I would say, let's say this is abundance magic. You are holding the magnetism of abundance magic, bring it towards me. You want to give them a job just like you do every correspondence in your spell. Don't just throw magnets in your jar or your cauldron and be like, oh, we're good. Then it's just there. It's a correspondence without a job. We don't want that. So tell it what to do, program it. Apparently Spirit needed to say this. Good Christ. Yeah, intentionally charge them, safe for spell work. Because I know who asked this and you are a council grad, you could definitely use them in Baneful Magic. But if you want information about that, I'll put it in chat in Discord. I won't give that information out live. Okay, next question. How do I call back a spirit? A few days ago, I had a strong smell of baby powder. I realized my infant goddaughter who passed away was trying to communicate with me. I was able to communicate with her through my crystal ball. She's asking for my help. Her passing date was last week. I've tried to get her to come back, whether it be through dreams or my crystal ball, but have been unsuccessful. How do I get her to come back and communicate with me again? Okay, this was asked by one of our mods who's in semester and also was a council grad. Number one, okay, for anybody that is connecting to an ancestor or spirit that has passed. Ancestor means someone who passed before you, not necessarily genetic lineage, how I'm saying it. Someone in the ether, someone who's deceased, right? When you have someone that you are talking to spirit-wise in the ether, mediumship, you have to know that if they're connected to you directly, your grief will affect your communication. Period. End of story. Every time I talk to my kids in the ether, my grief is a lens over that, right? That's just how it works. We can't ignore that connection, right? Like an attorney who might have a bias can't take a case, right? You have to be aware of your own lenses. You have to be aware of your own grief when you're communicating if you are related to or connected to the person that you're channeling. So, first of all, I would say look at grief and if that's showing up, and if that's maybe the reason why you're having the feeling of how do I get her back? Is it more of a grabby feeling or are we inviting? Because both can be present, right? But I would be a bad teacher if I didn't tell you to look at that first, right? What's the energy with which you're coming at this? I think that's probably the most important. If she's receptive, okay, if she didn't just come to say, if you said she came to ask for help, she didn't say goodbye. Um, if she wants to stay and she wants to hang out, because not all people in the ether do. It's not that fun here compared to the ether. I've been there. It's great. Like this is not a party for them. And so they peek in and they say hi and they give us messages, but they don't really want to be here. They were here. They don't want to be here anymore. And they don't mind popping in, but they don't like being consistently on call. Just like we don't. You don't have your phone on all the time. If I could call you any time of day and reach you, we better be really, really close, right? So this person that you're talking to, If they want to connect, I would say give them consistent space to do so. You can do regular times, like consistent. If you talk to her at 4 o'clock in the morning, because I know you, 4 o'clock in the morning, make that a 4 o'clock in the morning thing on Wednesdays. Wednesdays is great for communication. It's Mercury Day. There's a reason we do Q&A on Wednesday, right? So lots of chatting is good on Wednesday energy. That can help too, if you want to follow your day correspondences. But really, consistency is the key. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, especially after our last class last night. Consistency is so important, right? But be really clear about that. Same as you would with the person who is here. Be consistent with how you interact with them. That'll help build trust. Um, you might want to utilize multiple communication methods. I'm really proud of you for doing scrying because I know that that's not your normal. So congratulations for that. I'm so excited for you. Continue with that. If you know, specifically for the person who asked this, continue with scrying, right? You know that she can connect that way. You know that you get information that way. You know that you had a prior connection with her that way. But keep that going with your crystal ball, with your scrying, because you know that she can reach you. If you're watching this and you're like, I keep trying the same thing. I keep trying my crystal ball. I keep trying my pendulum. I keep trying my Ouija board. I keep trying my whatever, and you can't connect with somebody, try a different method. They might have up leveled. They might have changed their communication, just like we do. You can't talk to a toddler the same way you talk to a 40-year-old. You can't talk to a 40-year-old the same way you talk to a 90-year-old, right? You have to change your language based on who you're talking to. And so they might have up leveled, you might have up leveled, which means you guys can connect on different levels now. I would do that, be really consistent, and trust the subtleties. We talked about this last night in class. She's going to be quiet. Like the smell of baby powder, so good to notice. Hope that's in your spirit dictionary. Write that down, right? That way you know, okay, I had this instance, I saw her, here's what I saw in my crystal ball. I smelled this thing, all these intuitive sensations that are coming in, sensory. Love that. Write that down. And the more you pay attention to it, the more I bet she will show up if she wants to, right? I haven't spoken to her, so I won't speak for her, but if she wants to, she'll come hang out. Wants to and is able. Usually babies are pretty good about coming to say hi when they get energy. They love like the energy cuddles. Um, let's move on to the next one, making lemonade from lemons. Ooh. I'm trying to rewire my negative thoughts and compulsions. It's a slow process, but I'm getting there. While I'm healing, I'm also curious if I can transmute compulsions to work in my favor in the meanwhile. For example, something like making fun of my enemies feeds my servitor, or calling my abusive ex a butthead brings me money. Is it possible? Is it recommended? Okay, good question. Let me process this for a second. Making fun of my enemies feeds my servitor. That's pretty funny. Okay, so the person that asked this, you are a council grad, you are a semester student, so you've got a good depth and breadth of energetic magical knowledge. I would say, yeah, you can absolutely redirect negative patterns into positive outcomes. That's shadow work, right? But the key is doing it in a way that doesn't tie you energetically to the shadow, right? Because if we develop a pattern, again, consistency, spirits like bonk. If we develop a pattern where we're like, oh, I'm just gonna harp on my ex being an asshole. And every time I call him an asshole, okay, I make money for sure. Do you really want to keep programming your speech and your thoughts to think about your asshole ex? Maybe, maybe. But if you set an intention to have a link between your shadow work and something you create, I would just be mindful about it, right? Heal the shadow and then create out of neutral balance. Ultimately, that's what we want, right? Because what you're going to do is create a tug of war. You're creating a 3 and a 6, right? Your 6 is money. Your 3 is asshole X. Well, guess what? When you put something at 3, it changes. He's not, either you have to stop calling him an asshole and you have to change, or you're going to be tied to that forever, which will bring you money. Like energetically, can you? For sure. 100%. This is the same thing as someone else gossiping, and every time they say shit, you make money. But it's different because you're the one doing it, right? I'm not going to control someone else's gossip if I'm going to have it make money. Why would I stop them from running their mouth about me? The more they run their mouth, the more I make money. I'm not trying to stop them. If I was trying to stop them, I would have just stopped them. but you can't have it both ways, right? So if I wanted to be disconnected from them, I would just shield myself and keep their shit away from me. But everybody that I've said, oh, keep talking, and it just increases my profits, I'm still connected to them energetically because I have to be in order for the spell to work. So just be mindful about it. Um, I would create very specific statements if you do this. Be very careful about your petitions and the way that you say it. You could even say, like, I'm healing from my ex, and every time I heal, I make money, because then the impetus is on you transforming, not on your ex continuing to be an ass. If you're working with servitors, I mean, you mentioned this, like, what did you say? Yeah, making fun of my enemies feeds my servitor. This one's interesting. So if you're working with servitors, consider feeding them your negative emotions and letting them transmute it, as long as you're also doing the work. You can't, it's very convenient, right? To be like, oh, I'm sad. Let me shove my sadness into my servitor. You go process it. That's the same 6-3 thing, right? That's the same, I'm sad, go deal with it. But there's no integration. There's no surrender. There's no rubedo, right? So when you're looking at how you want to change these negative thoughts and compulsions, honestly, I would tell you to look underneath the thoughts. And it's not going to be easy work, right? This is similar to the shadow work question that we had someone else ask a few weeks ago. Shadow work is heavy shit. Shadow work is heavy shit. That's why we do a lot of work with the inner work, right? It's why this is required reading for everybody at Haven. No matter what class you're in, right? I've sold so many of their books. It's really important to make sure that you know what's going on in your nervous system and what's going on in your emotional body, right? So if you're having those compulsions from, let's say the compulsion is to shove every dating partner away. This is the series that I'm in right now, right? Watching a bunch of people shove every dating partner away because no one's good enough. They are also not good enough for them. So the compulsion is I shove people away. But what's underneath it is I can't trust myself to be present in love. I can't trust myself to be present in connection. Work on that and your whole thing changes, because then you can choose if you don't need anybody or not. You're not doing it from reaction, right? You're doing it, that's not aligned for me. I'm choosing not to. That's very different to make an intentional choice not to do something than to just push it away, right? Still a choice. One's a lot more conscious than the other. So just be aware of your process. Be aware of what's going on internally. Let that be your guide. We've got another question about servitors, so I'll talk more about that piece about it later. But I also just want to give you snaps, like, before I move on. Your humor is healthy perspective. A lot of people use humor to mask pain, and your humor is giving you healthy perspective. I'm not saying that you're masking pain. I'm saying that you're actually really good at transmuting negative energy through laughing, through humor, through finding absurdity and play in situations. That's something that you are uniquely wired for. So lean into that. It's okay to have fun with it. It doesn't have to be serious. Just be careful, right? We need a balance. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Abilities question. When is it intuition versus when is it anxiety? And what are some ways we can practice differentiating the two? For example, anxiety before a vacation. I'm going to summarize this because it's long, but it says, for my birthday trip, I was pacing the house, kind of convinced myself I was anxious to leave. The trip wound up a bad time. I remember a couple days in getting the feeling I knew I should have changed plan. I kind of knew I should have changed plans, versus the last month on a different trip, anxious, but the trip wound up fine and this person had fun. I've allowed people to detach me from my self-trust so many times before by hearing things like, this person's crazy, they imagined it, etc. And now I have a hard time deciphering, is this anxiety rooted in a trauma, or is my intuition trying to get me to pay attention? Okay. So first of all, the difference in your intuition and your anxiety is the feeling in your body. One of the things I was talking to our mod team about, I won't tell you who, but our mod team, I was talking about your voice. Okay. And you, the person that asked this, you're a projector. So you especially, I don't have your human design chart, but you are somebody who likely has an open throat, a defined throat center. Yes, 3-5, yeah, and you're an emotional projector. I just don't know if your throat center is defined or not, and that's fine. I don't need to know. Um, the point in telling you that is, I'm actually gonna pull up your question again because I don't want to paraphrase. You said, I have a hard time deciphering, is this anxiety rooted in a past trauma or is my intuition trying to get me to pay attention? How does it feel in your body, right? If you think about something that makes you anxious, choose something that makes you anxious. Where do you feel it in your body? And listen to your voice. When I get anxious, my voice like goes like this. Oh my God, you guys want to do this? Are you sure? Maybe we should go out tonight. I don't know. Do you like that? Should we really eat that? You want to make that? Are you gonna wear that? It's so tinny and high. Versus when I say, good morning, Haven. Put your feet on the floor. So a good way to check in with yourself is, where is the energy coming from? Where's the tension coming from? And where is your voice? Talk yourself out loud around this. If you start to go really fast, you start to go really high up. Oh my God, we're anxious. Calm yourself down, regulate. And you will notice that you operate from, this is actually like singing wise, it's called chest voice. So there's chest voice, there's head voice, right? Having chest voice, being here and having the energy here is so much more powerful when you're intuitive. That'll help you get out of anxiety. So first, notice where it's coming from, right? Also, intuition doesn't, it might freak you out. Like the things that you get, you might hear like, what? There's no way. But it doesn't feel like panic. Even when I've heard the craziest intuitive shit, like me being pregnant, someone moving, someone cheating on someone else, a cat once told me that their partner had someone over during the day that the other partner didn't know about. Like weirdest shit ever. It does not make me panic even when it's about me. I hear car accidents before they happen. I knew when my car accident, when I happened, I knew it was coming. I heard it. I was prepared for it because I heard it. It could have scared me. I could have gone into panic, but it doesn't feel that way. Intuition doesn't feel that way. There's not an inherent sense of panic. I did have a moment like, what? I'm hearing that. I know what that sound means. Okay, be aware. But I didn't move into anxiety and panic. I stayed rooted, right? So pay attention to your voice, pay attention to where it is in your body. Time and persistence, I think, is a factor here in sort of a sister situation to consistency, right? Intuitive hits persist calmly over time. Calmly over time. It's part of the reason why we document. Calmly over time. While anxiety is like a fucking woodpecker. Pay attention, pay attention, pay attention, right? You're like, gosh, shut up. And then anxiety makes you irritated, and you just, we keep going. Intuition's like, hey, don't do that. Hey, answer that message. Hey, go on that date, right? It's quiet. That's not how anxiety shows up for anybody that I know or for me. Holding the possibility that it could be different for someone, but in my experience, firsthand and as a teacher of a lot of initiates, I don't see that happening. So keep an eye on that. Okay. Persistence, calm, consistent calm, and then write it down, right? This is so good in your question. You gave me lots of information about past experiences. That's so good. Not because I'm happy that those sad experiences happened, but because you're writing it down. You know, okay, I had this thing and it ended up this way. I had this thing and it ended up this way. So I would look at those. What was the difference in how you were feeling at those two trips, right? Maybe the first trip you realize, you're operating from not from intuition, you're operating from anxiety. Or flip side, right? Just if you can go back, you might not be able to know now, but going forward, look at how your body feels, how your energy feels, and where it's concentrated. Anxiety usually sticks here in the throat, and it sticks here in like third eye crown area, because sometimes you have so much inspiration coming in that you get overwhelmed, and that's like anxiety provoking, and sometimes you feel stuck. Specifically for this person, you're in semester, we're working through the inner work, right? When I hear things like, uh I don't want to paraphrase. You said, I've allowed people to detach me from my self-trust so many times before. That's the wound of distrust. That's the wind of distrust. So what happened is there is a moment or maybe multiple moments when you were going into a situation and you ended up not feeling safe. There's no blame, there no detail needed. You went into a situation and you ended up not feeling safe. What happens in that moment, whether our trust is with ourselves or someone else, is it gets eroded. And if it happens consistently, it gets eroded over time. And then we end up in constant fight, flight, freeze, fawn. If you are living in fight, flight, freeze, fawn, it's because you have a struggle with trust. Maybe that's trust with yourself, maybe it's trust with someone else. But I would look at those people, the memories that you have of those people talking you out of your intuition. Are they still in your life? Do you trust them? Would you trust them with guidance for your life? Would you ask them questions? Yeah, yeah, absolutely the fuck not, right? So they're trying to get you to not listen to yourself. In the moment, that's hard to see, right? Especially if we're in self-doubt, because we have that, oh, maybe they're right. Can I trust myself? Ooh, some of that fits. Shit, is it all right? And then guess what? Guess what? We go up here and oh my God, what am I gonna do? Check it with your body. Even the intuitive guidance that I give you guys, you know that. I tell you all the time, trust yourself over me. You are the authority. Do not trust me over yourself. Trust your body. So if I tell you something, I still want you to be like, how does that land? Because you got to learn to trust yourself, right? You are the only person you're going to have your whole life. We got to make sure that we have good self-trust. So I would look at the wound of distrust. I would look at how this plays into your semester intention. We're going to look at that a lot, week 8, week 9, for semester. But I think as a 3-5, a third line review of your trial and error. How many times did second guessing my guidance and overriding it with someone else? How often did that work out? Just quick journal, like how often did that work? Same thing when I ask people how much did your decisions that you make with your mind, how many of those have worked out for you? And they're like, and they go back and they think, yeah. She says never, and I do it every single time. Yeah, that's because we're consistent at patterns, right? If you don't, this is that thing, right? If you look at if you look at the pattern, I do it, I do it, I do it. The cool thing about you is you are open to growing. So you're like, oh my God, I do this. You're not just looking at it going, okay, I do this and this happens. And I don't like that I do it, but I do it. That will get you nowhere. We all know those people. I have this problem and I'm not willing to work on it. I just want to talk about my problem. Cool. That's not the space I want to be in. That's cool. That's what you need. But the other side is I really want to trust my intuition. I really want to trust my intuition. I really want to trust my intuition. And the seed of doubt over here hasn't been looked at. And so it's really hard to build enough trust to cancel that doubt, right? So instead, go to point 9, you're going to change your setting. So you're going to allow a little bit of review of those settings when you've had those moments when people have placed doubt. Give your brain a chance to see, ooh, they said to not do it, and I listened and it did not go well. Or I had anxiety and I listened to it over my intuition and here's what happened, right? Build yourself a log. Capricorn rising 3D shit is phenomenal. Make yourself a log. Prove it to your brain. I promise you it will work. I promise I have lived this. I've walked so many people. Just make a list, keep track, watch your intuition speak to you because you'll realize that when it speaks, it's true. It's just the pattern of listening to it that's hard. Okay, we're humans. Sometimes that shit's hard. All right. Next question, Grimoire. We're doing really good on time. I've never had a grimoire or kept notes on my craft until now. This person's in semester. I basically have a notebook with class notes. Can you give guidance on how to start a proper grimoire or book of shadows? Yeah, I absolutely can. So I would say start simple. I think there's a lot of pressure in witchcraft circles and in the present time witch movement, which I'm putting in quotes, okay? We've always been here, but we're just really loud right now. I think it's a very big thing for people to get into witchcraft and become supply hoarders. I want to say a different word there, but I can't. You want to get all the things, right? I need all the herbs, I need all the crystals, I need all the books. So there's usually usually an element of like it has to be really pretty and it has to be really ornate and it has to be like it has to look like Sanderson sisters book, right? Whatever. We have these ideas from Hollywood that our grimoires need to look a certain way. Let yourself watch that and not attach to it. Okay. Start really simple and personal. In my experience, you're going to go through a couple of grimoires to find a system that works for you, to find a journaling system that works for you, to find the kind of one you want. Maybe you really need it spiral bound. Maybe you love it soft cover. Maybe you love it tiny. Maybe you want a huge, big ass grimoire, right? Up to you. Like I say, start personal and start simple. Pick something that you're going to want to write in, that you're going to like using, because we want documentation. So make it easier on yourself by having a setting that you enjoy. Don't ascribe to Hollywood if that's not your jam, right? I would organize them in a way that makes sense to you. So I actually have different grimoires for different sections, like different topics. I have a grimoire that is just like spell recipes. It's literally the same as our spell library channel. It's very similar to that, but it's written out. I have one that is purely for baneful work. I have a grimoire that is for teaching, for my semester class, for my council class, for Haven, basically my teaching grimoire. There's a bunch. So organize them in the way that makes sense for you. You can do them in like sections. That's why one of the things I said yesterday in semester classes, if you want to do a spirit dictionary and you want it to be its own book, that's totally fine. But I'm proud of you for taking notes, and I'm proud of you for documenting. It's really important. One thing that we get into, a tip that I have for grimoires and books of shadows, is we don't document our failures, right? And you're a 6-2. The first 30 years of a 6 line they live as a third line. So if you have a 6 in your profile numbers in human design, you live as a third line for your first 30 years. That means you spend 30 years trialing and erroring, and then you spend 30 years integrating. And then at about 55 or 60, somewhere in there, different for everybody, you come into that 6th role. You come into that 6th line, which is the role model, and you live as an example. Whereas a 5th line would teach, right? A 4th line would network. A 3rd line would try it out, et cetera, right? So when you are a 6th line, you probably have a lot of examples from the first 30 years of your life that are trial and error. And if you look at where you're at now, those errors matter just as much, if not more, than your successes, right? In your trials. They adequately, and sometimes more than adequately, affect our future. So in your grimoire, don't negate your failures. Write the stuff down that did not work, because you're going to want to have it. I tried this, did not get results. I tried this, got it slower than I wanted. I tried this would be a stronger tag luck. I tried this and had this result, and it backfired. Or I'm not seeing anything, I need to strengthen it, right? You have to take notes. Don't be afraid to write down what didn't work. It is just as important as what did work. That's especially true if you are a 6th line or a 3rd line. Your grimoire and your book of shadows are a living document, and I'll specify the difference between these. Typically, a grimoire is your book of spells, a book of, one frog's eye, one bat wing, one toad foot, mullein and castor oil in a jar, right? Totally off the top of my head. But that's what a grimoire is, right? Kind of like the Sanderson sisters big book. Here's what you do. Here's the big spell book. Your book of shadows is more of your journal, the things that you walk through. So I will write my spells step by step in my grimoire, but my book of shadows is where I'm like, damn, I'm really feeling anxious today. I think I need a calming spell. It's Wednesday. Let's do blue candle magic. Then I'd map it out in my book of shadows, and then I'd write calming anxiety spell, candle work, and then the ingredients and the step-by-step and procedure in my grimoire. That's typical. You don't have to do it that way, but that's why people delineate or differentiate between the two, just in case that's news. But they're both living documents. You're going to add to them all the time. I keep mine literally under lock and key. They will be bequeathed to my children when I pass. Like, these are absolutely important things to have, and what a gift to be able to pass on to somebody. Hopefully my children will want it, and if not, it'll go to my niece. But be able to pass on the gift of all of my trial and error, all of my hard work. This is like if you've seen Harry Potter, the Half-Blood Prince, right? He gets the book with all the notes. Don't cut it, crush it. And people are like, how did you make that? I followed the directions. Well, bro, you followed somebody's trial and error, right? So set your future self up for success by writing everything down, even the things that feel like they're failures, because they're not. Okay. Next question. Servitors for someone else. Is it possible to create a servitor to work for someone other than yourself, or is it possible to co-create a servitor alongside someone? Okay, so this person's a council grad and this person is in semester. This is a good question. Is it possible, just like I tell you guys in class, I'm not here to tell you what's right. I'm here to tell you what's possible. Is it possible? Yeah. Is it possible to make a servitor to be assigned to someone else, to work for someone or around someone? Yeah, 100%. Is it possible to co-create? Yes, but it's harder. Okay. So the difference, let's get into co-creating versus controlling, okay? And really love versus control. How are you creating this servitor? If it's a servitor for you and your partner to expand into a new level of intimacy, and the servitor's job is to bring you ads for things you can add into your intimacy practice. Cool. That's working for you and your person. Really, it's working for your relationship, right? So that's creation from love. You have a shared goal, the other person's in alignment with it. This is the same thing as creating a servitor to protect your kids or to walk with your kids to the bus stop, right? Same thing. Totally valid. They're still working for you. They're just working alongside someone else, but for you. Same as you would send a manager. Like if you're a VP, you send your manager to go work with your staff. Same thing, right? You're just creating an intermediary, but it's for someone that you have consent. It's for someone that's going to be receptive. If it's a kid, if it's your child, right, that's good. I think if you look at the council notes from week 4, when I taught servitors, there's the 10-step process that I gave you for how to create one. The kill switch, never skip that. Like, I know I told you that and I harped on it in council, probably so much that I tattooed it on your eyelids. Do not skip the kill switch. Do not skip the fatal flaw. Like, you have to know how to undo it, and you both have to be able to know how to undo it. There's got to be, if you create it together, like if you're not creating it for your husband and the relationship between you and your husband, you're not creating it for a theoretical child, you're not creating it for your boss, right? You're co-creating it. You're sitting down with whoever, another witch, husband, whoever. I don't know who this is about, so whoever is with you. You both have a responsibility for creation. You both have a responsibility for sustenance. You both have a responsibility for relationship. This is effectively y'all creating a baby, right? It's not a baby, it's not human. But think about it that way. You have to co-parent. You both have responsibilities. What you can't do is create the servitor and then that person dicks out on their responsibilities, or they're not connected to you anymore, or they end up, I don't know, they have creation power for the servitor. Maybe they rewrite the servitor. Maybe they switch the directives. Maybe they switch the way that it communicates, right? If you both create it, you're both creating it from a space of equality as far as hierarchy. It's going to listen to both of you, which means you both need relationship. You both need to feed it. You both need to give it gratitude. You both everything has to be a dual effort. Every part of this has to be a dual effort. So that's why I say can you? Yes. Should you? If I was telling you and I'm in friend space and not teacher space, not a good idea. Not a good idea. Teacher space, can you? Absolutely. And you know what, girl? You have the skills to do this. If you really want to, teach someone the 10-step process, teach them how to protect themselves. Y'all better clear and protect before you do this and after. Make sure your wards make sure your wards are up to date, refresh everything before you did it. But yeah, can you? Yeah. Would I recommend it? No. Have I done it? Co-created? No. Have I created a servitor to be with someone? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. When my son's stepfather passed, my son went into a hole like most children do, most teens do, and I created a servitor to watch out for him in case he started to spiral himself. Unless he happens to watch this, hi Nate, unless he happens to watch this, he has no idea, right? And I would get little insights of, hey, he needs extra love today. That's my kid. That was okay. And the servitor wasn't interacting with Nate, just watching, right? And being respectful as he was watching, could not watch certain areas, times, things like that, right? So I would lean into that. If you feel like all systems are go, you're cleansed, you're protected, person's in alignment, hell yes. Can you? You are absolutely capable. 100%. Okay. Other things, looking at your question, other than the 10 step, I would say, oh yeah, look at your codependency. This is something I put in my notes. What's the reason behind creating the servitor, right? Just like we do with intentions, we want to get 3 levels deep, the 3 whys. So I'm not here, like I said, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to make sure you know how and what's possible. So what I would do is if I'm looking to create a servitor, co-create with somebody, why? Well, if let's say I'm looking to create a servitor for Phil, and Phil's my husband, if you didn't know, and I want a servitor that's going to help us communicate better. Okay, every couple needs that. So I'm going to create this. Well, why do I want to communicate better? Well, because I want a more solid relationship. Why? Because I value love in my life and I value partners that feel safe to communicate around. Why? Because safety and having a regulated nervous system in my relationship is important to me. That's what it is. Is it actually about communication or is it about my ability to stay regulated around someone else? That's really what it's about. So look at your motivation. Whether or not that's a proper motivation is no one's to say but me, but you got to know why. Because if I would have just made the first servitor for communication, would it work? Yeah. Would it serve my needs? Yeah. But is it actually getting, we're just band-aiding. Is it actually getting to the root? And in which case, I might create a servitor for a totally different reason. If my base reason is I deserve nervous system safety around partners, I would create a protector servitor that alerts me when I meet someone new and they say, this person's not safe for your nervous system, or do extra regulation before you talk to them, or do not approach them until you are baseline. That's what I would do because that's actually where I'm at. And then it's applicable to Phil and everybody else because it's about me. It's about my communication. It's really always about us. We're always really the ones that have to change. The more you go through Haven, you'll see that. It's no one else's stuff, it's your stuff, right? So if you can get it to point back at you, even if someone else is involved, just kiss, okay? Servitors are powerful. They're often more powerful than most people understand. You're a council grad, so you get this. Do not give it license to create more servitors. Do not give it free will. You know all those things. But if you're watching this and you have not taken counsel, do not make a servitor without taking counsel. Or what's going to happen is you'll become a client and I'll get a phone call and it'll be, I need help because my house is haunted, right? That's what people say. What's going on? Well, I made this thing and it turned into this other thing. And now like all my life is crazy. And did you give it free will though? Did you tell it couldn't make more? Please just take counsel. Please take counsel. Semester is a prerequisite. Take semester if you haven't, and then take counsel. You'll have a beautiful widescreen landscape of Witchcraft Foundation, of things to know, of easy skills to move from right path magic to left path magic. It's my favorite. I teach counsel. I'm going to teach counsel every summer. So it's coming up. You have another chance to join semester next round before I teach counsel, if that's interesting. But I cannot teach you baneful magic until I've taught you other things. And I tried it and I need to teach you other things first. So let's see. Chat says, I have not looked at this. Finn says, when questioning is a good time to turn to your divination of choice and then listen to it. Yeah, you can always use your divination tools as the confirmation for your intuition. Like I say, tarot, pendulum, scrying. We talked about a lot of those today. Use your method of choice. If you're in semester, we have a unit on divination. It's unit 11, so it's towards the end because it's fun and it's not very brainy, and we've already gotten past all of our alchemy work, so your brain is ready. And we'll have a divination unit. That's really fun. We'll go through runes this year too. I'm excited. Uh, Somebody says the other day when I dropped a card and thought, oh, I dropped that, put it back and reshuffled it, and it flew out again with the energy of I said what I said. Yeah. I love when we ask spirit 80 times for the same thing and then they finally do the like, bitch, I already answered it, right? Like they get really irritated when we ask that many times. And so what they do is they end up circumventing and giving you the answer different ways. And then our logic brain goes, oh, that can't be it, right? That can't be the sign that I asked for. That can't. I asked for a rhinoceros. I use this example all the time. I asked for a rhinoceros walking down the street in the middle of Phoenix, and I saw it. That's not signy enough. That can't be spirit. My guides drink sometimes, I'm telling you, because they're like, girl, we're trying to tell you. This is why we document. It's why we have consistency, right? It's why we pay attention. Looking at the chat, we've got someone said I reprinted worksheets this morning and I'm gonna retake council. Yay, good. Yeah, and if you want to actually retake it too, if you at Haven, if you ever audit a class that you've already passed, you don't have to pay full price. There's a huge discount if you want to retake a class that you've already graduated from because you already have the content. So just so you know. But going back through it's never a bad thing. Then I have a question. You already know they're sick of me, just a regular stubborn Taurus. Yeah, I don't think you're that stubborn though, girly. Your Pisces shows up and you're like, let me feel all my feels about it, which I love because I'm a Pisces too. Love this. All right, you guys. I am gonna I'm gonna cap it today. Thank you for being here. Next week, next Q&A, I am going to have questions for spirit. Ask questions for spirit. We're going to do a live reading, an hour tarot reading. I think I'm going to use tarot. We might use other divination methods. We'll see. Spirit likes to throw curveballs. But ask questions or submit questions if you're at Haven for spirit. We're going to pull cards and I'm going to ask spirit questions. So you're same as normal. Your name's not going to be shared. I will share your question and then we'll pull live and I'll do answers live. If you're here, we can chat in the chat live time. If not, you can watch the replay. But next week is spirit Q&A, not witch Q&A. So come on Wednesday. Excited for that. If you're in semester, I'll see you on Friday. And if you're not, I'll see you next week. Bye, guys.